Is Facebook still relevant to you and your business? Right here, right now, On Air Brands Live.
It's On Air Brands Live at home with Devin Bravaco, Eric Cabral, Josh Carey, Jordan Fraser, and Justin Fraser. Lisa Holbert, Sarah McMillan, Chris Horsey, Jack Turkel, and Jake Resnicki.
What's happening, fine folks, and welcome back to the On Air Brands Live podcast. I am your co-host with the whole family here of co-hosts. How are you doing?
We're all here.
We're good.
Good to be here. Missed you guys.
Welcome back, Lisa.
Missed you guys.
It's been too long. It's been too long. So I just wanted to tee up what the question was and reframe it so anyone who's watching knows what the conversation is going to start as, and then also where we could eventually move into. But you're here, you're watching Facebook Live. This is also live on many other platforms such as YouTube. But people, and often we, are talking behind the scenes. How powerful is Facebook still in terms of your business, marketing and branding, and positioning yourself as a thought leader, and then potentially putting an investment into Facebook as we do each and every day? So that is a topic that we still always, because it's always evolving, it's always changing. LinkedIn is always in the conversation, obviously Instagram, TikTok. So what are your thoughts, folks? What are your ideas, Devin, about what's happening and what's your flavor of the month?
I love social media. I mean, I'm big on our own business. I love social media. I've taken a million classes on Instagram, how to kind of grow, how to get traction, and same with Facebook too. I feel like I've been, I do focus more on Instagram. My fiance partner focuses more on Facebook, so it kind of works out well. But we've gotten so many contacts and leads through both social media platforms. We don't do Twitter. We do LinkedIn sometimes, and we actually get a lot of traction there too. I love it. We've gotten great contacts, great leads, great connections. It's been really great. So I love it. Definitely need to do more of it, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's always growing.
What's going on, Josh?
What is going on? I'm very excited for our guest today, who we're going to bring on in a short bit. It's Todd Genatasio, who is who's really become a. Not only are we working with him internally to help us get the marketing right and gain more traction and visibility, but he's very much a team member. He's really plays well in our mix, and we see a long-term play with him. So I'm excited to hear, how you use Facebook or other social avenues for all kinds of marketing within your business, how you gain the visibility you want and you desire.
This is the cool thing about this episode. So if you're watching now, stay tuned, because this is basically free consultation for you, because you're going to have aside from us being experts in this space, we have our Jedi Master that we lean on and we always look to for answers. So you're going to be able to ask questions. You're going to be able to try to figure out how to leverage Facebook or other platforms, and if you should be leveraging other platforms. So this is really, really an opportunity for you to jump into the conversation. Please ask your questions in the comments. Please subscribe, obviously, and share. I feel like that's become white noise at this point, where hey, subscribe, share.
It's true.
I stopped saying it because it's just people know.
I
But
think
the
it's
thing
a
is,
smart move, actually.
yeah, it's like let's
People need
use
a
that time.
reminder because they get engaged with the content. They need to be reminded to
Yes.
share.
Well, let
I
me ask
know.
you this. If we can go down this detour just for a minute, guys, we're
Sure.
going to pull over just for a quick
Oh, I
moment.
see that. I need to stop over there. I got to use the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. so Eric, Devin, Lisa, let me ask you this. When is the last time you subscribed to a podcast? When is the last time you liked or shared a podcast?
Can I answer that really quick?
That's who I'm asking.
About 30 minutes ago,
Okay.
the Pod Max podcast I subscribed to.
Oh, does that count?
Wow, that's
Okay.
yeah.
But you might be
Shameless
proving our
plug.
point. You might
Shameless
be proving
plug.
the point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
But
yeah,
you see what I'm
Lisa-
saying? Like, I
yeah,
mean, we
Lisa,
all
when's the
say it.
last
We
thing?
all hear it. I mean,
Lisa said people still. What do you subscribe to?
So that's interesting because sometimes well, we had a former guest. Let's go back. A former guest way back in the beginning, Bonnie Gallum, who's an
yeah.
attorney. I just subscribed to her podcast. She just started one. I think she's on episode 4.
wow.
And she's an attorney that deals with investors and landlords and tenants. And she has started a podcast. So knowing people trying to start out, you want to support them.
There
She
you go.
came and spent some time with us. And I just saw that, she started to try and get this going. So I've just started and I've listened to one episode and just starting
Very
with
cool.
that and giving her some love.
To be honest, I forget
Yeah.
to subscribe. I'll watch stuff, especially on YouTube. And you're right, Lisa, you're right, because I was watching something that just comes through the feed.
Right.
And I assume that they're going to show up, but they hadn't showed up in a while. And the guy actually reminded me, he says, hey, if you don't want the algorithms to decide for you, you need to subscribe to this channel. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I looked, my subscribe button wasn't grayed out. It was red. It was ready for me to tap onto it. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So, okay. So
Well,
look
maybe
at that.
that's
answered the
how
question.
maybe that's the missing piece. Instead of, as you acknowledged, Eric, it's become white noise. Subscribe, like, and share. Maybe it now requires hey, if you want the reminder every time there's a new episode, if you don't want to miss out on these episodes and you want to see them in your feed, if you want to get the notifications, then make sure to subscribe, like, and share. So maybe it is just that bigger picture missing piece of the benefit of the reason that they should.
But the power, I think, with Facebook and or Instagram, let's say, and even LinkedIn that's a secondary way for you to remind your audience that you're out there, what your message is, who your guest is. So it's kind of like they help each other, and it's another medium that you can use instead of just being on Apple or Spotify or whatever, and hopefully you pop up, when someone logs in. You can remind people that you're out there.
I have to say, like, before kind of working with you guys, like podcasts, like I would listen to kind of here and there. And now I feel like I'm listening and subscribing to a lot more than I used to. I feel like I find the people that I like, and then I want to hear when they have something to release. So Lindsay Elmore, I've listened to so many of her podcasts lately. I love them. And so it's just like, she's just so like inspiring, and she just talks about like real topics, which I really like. And so when a new episode is released, like I want to know about it. So I subscribe to those. But there's definitely, I guess I'm on the lower scale of how many I've subscribed to, but definitely following more now, and also seeing, how beneficial it is, especially like our business. Like when we're like, go like Just Divine Properties, go do this, go do that. Like I also need to be on the other side and like and subscribe to other people too.
Should we bring Todd into the mix at this point?
Yeah.
I feel like you might have something to add.
Oh,
There
look
he
at
is.
that.
Oh, we
quick.
almost forgot.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Look at that quick.
I
So
feel
it's
like
Todd Giannatasio. Go ahead.
there we go. So the question is subscribing podcast and or YouTube, because you were jumping back and forth.
Back and forth. Yeah.
I
But
love
I will
that
tell
guy.
you, my podcasting subscription, I subscribe to, I think, over like 20 different shows. I will rarely, if ever that I can remember, listen to a one-off podcast episode. YouTube is the complete opposite, where I will very often watch the episodes when they're, so I'll more likely be connected to someone on social or subscribe to their email list and get the reminder there to click. And that's like Noah Kagan, for example, comes to mind. I'm sure I subscribe to his YouTube channel, but I don't go to YouTube and scroll through my subscriptions. I get my email from Noah that says, hey, here's, 7 tips to make your videos better or something was his thing this week. So I get notified on YouTube stuff in other channels and then go watch the YouTube stuff, even if I do subscribe to the channels. Podcasts, I am like, I'm with you guys. Like I'm listening to 30 hours a week of podcasts. Like I can't, I need more time to listen to the stuff, but I'm definitely like a high speed listener and watcher as well. So I can consume as much as possible to hear all the different perspectives and angles everywhere.
You said high speed. So you do the 1.5 times speed on podcasts?
No, I said high speed, Eric. I do 2x is as high as the Apple Podcast app goes, but YouTube, I use video speed controller, the Chrome extension, and I'll do 3 or 4x.
That's a nice hack. I didn't know you could do that because I watch it on the phone. So wow.
Oh yeah. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't work on the phone, but on the desktop. And like I do a lot of courses and online programs and stuff too. So I think of it as plugging into the matrix. Like I put in my headphones, close the door,
I love that.
Cup of coffee, 4x, and I'm just locked in like osmosis, like letting it just like
what's the name of
into my brain.
What's that Chrome extension?
Video speed controller.
Video speed control.
I didn't know that existed.
That's a huge hack right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
While Todd is here, can we place it into context, Todd? I'd love to get you just laying the foundation for those tuning in. You run your own marketing business, ad business. You help us run Facebook ads. Some would say you're a Facebook ads and marketing expert. Is that true? Do you resonate with that? And what is it you do in this grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's an awkward question and is a rabbit hole of a topic, but like it's all relative, I guess, in general. In the case of how many humans there are in the world, yeah, definitely on an expert level. But then also on the flip side, always trying to surround yourself with someone who's better than you, knows more, knows other things. And so, oftentimes find yourself in the position where even if you might be an expert to some people, you get into other rooms and you're like, man, there's still so much to learn and know. And so that's why I'm subscribed to 30 podcasts and listen to videos at 4x speed. So, but it is definitely where I spend a bulk of my time is around content marketing, content strategy, which I include in what are we going to say, where are we going to say it, and how do we amplify those messages to reach the right people at the right times. And Facebook right now is the best channel for doing that in most cases. So that is where I put a lot of my focus for sure.
Would you say Facebook is the best bang for your buck at
Yeah.
this point?
Yeah.
Even
for
though there
sure.
are other emerging platforms, other
Yeah.
platforms that are, great for business. Facebook, really, like when dollars to nuts or whatever they totally make sense.
Is that the phrase?
I have no
know
idea.
I don't know
I
if
have
that's
no
the
idea.
phrase, but
I made my own.
let's make
I
it a
made
phrase.
it.
Dollars to nuts.
It's a new
I love
phrase.
it.
Nuts. Facebook
Right.
is
New
where to
phrase.
be.
Go get the .com now.
Yeah, for sure it is because there's a lot of things, and one also to frame it. If and when we're talking about Facebook ads, we're also including Instagram in that conversation because Facebook ads also controls your Instagram ads as well. So we're talking about both of those things. But looking at LinkedIn is a question. We hopped on the phone yesterday and we're talking about LinkedIn, and it's something that I try every 6 months or so. It's very expensive to get started with LinkedIn. The cost per click is higher, your cost per views and impressions is higher. And so you can't run as successful of micro tests. And that's kind of our approach to Facebook, where we spend a few dollars for a few days to test ideas out. And then when things work, then we increase it. And if it doesn't, then we decrease it. And with LinkedIn, it's too expensive to do that kind of stuff unless you really have a short sales cycle with a high ticket price, or you have the long financial runway where we're going to be spending a lot of money before we get that initial traction and response and ROI. So dollars to nuts.
Yeah.
Facebook
It's
is
called a callback. That's
That
a
is
callback.
that is the name of the episode, Jake. Dollars to
to
nuts.
so
Todd,
dollars to nuts. Yeah, Facebook/Instagram is where we like to spend the money and get a return.
how does a brand or entrepreneur know whether they should just double down on a Facebook or social media marketing strategy organically? Like, hey, I can figure this
Yeah.
out. I can gain some stuff. I can get some traction for my end result. Or is it time to invest in ads? Where is
Dude, this
that
is
gap?
so. This is a great question, and there's two answers. Like every question in this topic or any business topic, the answer is always it depends, right? But
Sure.
time versus money. If you have time but you don't have money, then you can work organic first. And my recommendation is to do that, especially at this point. People typically have some kind of social media connections and network already that they can test out. And so, like I said, we like to do micro tests before we invest larger money. So when it comes to should we stick with organic or go with paid, I like to, because I have a network that I've built of business connections, and you guys are similar, where I can post stuff on my personal profile organically and test out and see, are people responding to this type of message? I haven't spent any money yet. Same thing goes with an email list. Huge value in having an email list where you can send an email to your existing audience and see, am I getting responses to this? Are people digging it? Then, if so, let's move it over to a paid campaign and run a micro test for a week and see, does it get traction when we're doing proper targeting and actually amplifying to a cold audience, people who don't know us yet. And if it does get some traction there for 60, 80, $100, then we know, all right, there's some legs here. Let's invest more and scale the spend up, because what it comes down to is we have a message. Are we reaching everyone we want to reach with this message? And if you can reach, if your target audience is 1 million people and you have 1 million person email list and you send it and 100% open, then great. Good for you, right? That's probably not the case for most people. And same thing goes, even if you have a large social following and fans on your page, one, organically, that's going to be, your reach is limited because you got to pay the Zuckerberg tax, right? Like if you're a business, you got to pay to play. So only a small percentage of people will see it, even if they do follow you. But if you have a great message and it is aligned with your business objectives, so when people see this message, they're going to enter our ecosystem and eventually become a customer, or maybe immediately become a customer, then you need to have that investment mentality where, okay, we know when we're putting our money into this, we're going to get this kind of return on it, whether that's building up your email list or driving people to a sales page or getting them on a sales call. But really, that's what it comes down to. When do you invest? When you know you have a message, and the more people you reach with that message will get the response you want. And then the second thing, like I said, there are two parts to the question. If you have more money than time, right? If you don't have an audience yet that you can send out a message and people will see, then you need to spend a couple dollars to do the testing, right? So in the case where you have an email list, you have an organic audience that you can post and see what happens, great, do that first. If you don't, or it's not large enough yet, then you need to spend money. Do not expect a return, but say, I'm going to spend $25 to see what the reaction is. And based on that reaction, make adjustments and then increase the spending when it starts to work.
Yeah, I love the term that you said earlier called, micro testing. It's such a good, sort of playground for us to not invest a ton of time and money yet, but
Right.
then just, create all of these assets to see which one is performing. And
Yeah.
like you said, with LinkedIn, I don't even know if they ever want to get there, because
They don't.
I don't know if you guys know, how much is it for a premium account? Whenever I see that little gold badge, I'm like, ooh, you're rich. Man, you spending a lot of money. It's like $800 a month or something crazy. But yeah, I mean, Facebook and LinkedIn, can we talk about the comparison? Because I know a lot of people, go back and forth between the two. I do. And it's seeming like, LinkedIn is getting a lot of traction in terms of engagement, but then Facebook is still the place to, like you said, micro test.
Right. Micro test and a few things. And I want to get there is a comment here. Somebody posted about some stuff that's good. So the other thing that people don't think about is using retargeting, right? And so even if your audience, first of all, 100 billion people are on Facebook, so don't tell me that they're not on Facebook. But the other thing is, even if you are running a enterprise B2B, whatever, like So if your target audience is a 48-year-old female executive, like, okay, so 48-year-old females aren't using Facebook or Instagram. They are, so we can get in front of them there. But even if we talked about, I mentioned the word cold audience, and that's people who don't know you yet. Then we have our warm audience, which is people who have interacted with your brand. And so you can use Facebook to only show content to people who have visited your website already, or that they're already on your email list, or that they're already your clients. And so using that as not the first touch point where you're saying, okay, we're going to run a Facebook ad and we're going to close a $2 million enterprise sale by Friday. Like, that's not what's going to happen. But what you can do is say, our sales cycle is 18 months. And everyone who visits our website is obviously interested in whatever content they found on the website or whatever. So once they visit our website, now let's make sure when they go on Facebook, Instagram, or let's not forget, Facebook also has a network that's not in their apps, right? Like you can buy ads through Facebook Ad Manager. It will target people based on their Facebook, account and profile, but it will show those ads on don't quote me on these sites, but on the ESPNs, on New York Times, on Wall Street, whatever. Like those banner ads you see on all those media sites, they're controlled by Google. Most of them are controlled by Google and Facebook. And so leveraging the Facebook audience network in that way too. So it's not just about saying, oh, well, my target audience doesn't scroll through Facebook on their phone for 4 hours a day. That doesn't mean Facebook's not a way to reach your audience.
Yeah. That explains why they're everywhere.
Right.
I have a thought, and all of a sudden it's coming through in all these different places, not necessarily the Facebook app or
right, exactly.
desktop. Yeah.
And that's another thing that we like to do is hook people in. And so, like I said, ways that you can, it's what's called pixeling, right? For people who don't know yet, is you put a Facebook pixel on your site, and that can track the people who visit. So 1, people who visit your site, or 2, if they watch a video that you've put on Facebook, right? And so that's what we like to do. That's what we're working on stuff with you guys too, that we're doing is we run a video campaign first, because once someone has seen that, it could be as little as a couple of seconds of your video that's from Facebook, now they are in our ecosystem and we can target that person specifically, as opposed to the 5 million large pool of people. Well, if we get a few thousand people to watch a few seconds of our video in a week, well, now we can become everywhere, omnipresent. We are super celebrities to those few thousand people now going forward for the next few weeks, right?
Yeah. Lisa, you had a question?
Yeah, and Todd, everything you're talking about is it's fascinating. I'm gonna take it a slight step back and look at it from maybe a lot of people that might be watching, where they are kind of looking at managing this themselves. A lot of whether it's a small growing company, independent whatever they're doing. And you have this wealth of information at people that are kind of coming at it from this direction, being new or trying to do it themselves, ready to kind of take the next step and hand it over to someone like yourself, your company. What should those people be looking for? What, the knowledge that you're sharing is obviously exponential. It's infinite compared to myself.
Sure.
What should we be looking for? What type of things will really tell us that you can help us kind of take it to the next level?
So I think it's super important that when you are interviewing someone, looking for someone, whether it's a freelancer or an agency, that they recognize that advertising, and this goes for any kind of marketing that you want to hire for, but that they recognize and speak to the fact that there are multiple steps in a marketing and sales process and a customer journey. And so what we do is look at, let's step back and say, who's the target audience that you're looking to reach? And let's make sure it makes sense to put this strategy out. And what kind of offer do you have? Because a lot of times people come to us and they're like, we need Facebook ads, or we need SEO, or we need this, or we need that. And it's very tactical, but they don't have an offer for their audience. And so we can run Facebook ads until, the dollars and nuts come together.
I love it.
That's twice for anybody keeping score.
But if you
And not the last time.
No. And so if we can run Facebook ads and get 1 million video views or drive 1 million visitors to your website. Yeah. But if you're not sending them to a clear next step that's gonna help them along their customer journey and ultimately pay you money, well, then that person's too tactical, and they're going to spend money. You can sign up with them. They'll set up your campaigns, and they'll run. Maybe they make cool looking ads, and the ads can even do a great job. But if that traffic or those video views don't turn into paying customers, then if your goal is to make money, assuming that you're a business, that's what you need to, at a high level, understand. Like, these people are not tactical. But they don't have blinders on with just tactics, but they understand that, like, there's a bigger purpose to why we're doing this, and that it has to tie into everything else that your business does, right? Looking at how does this serve your business objectives.
Yeah, I want to highlight this comment here, Jake, if you want to throw that back up there, where someone said we use Facebook for hiring, building credibility, showing the human side, not just all business, showing support for issues or causes that our brand stands behind.
Absolutely.
And in the industry, Todd, right? This is what we call a brand awareness campaign.
Yeah.
So you can put stuff out there that doesn't necessarily have a direct offer or sell.
Absolutely.
What you're doing is you're showing the culture and your core values to the audience, and your knowledge and your position as a thought leader, which all encompasses creating awareness for you and your brand. And then eventually, though, you can run that all the way until, the dollars to nuts or whatever
there it is.
makes sense. But the thing is,
All right, one for
eventually
Eric.
You're going to have to, let's have a little score thing here.
Right,
You're going to have to eventually create a campaign and some communication around what you do and how you do business and how you make money. So yeah, that's so to dovetail into Lisa's question, when does someone realize, okay, I've created a brand awareness campaign, or I'm in the process of, or I'm in some sort of phase? When does that go into, when do I evolve into what you're talking about?
Yeah. So this is something that
Look on the screen.
So,
Jake's the man.
This goes into kind of the Evergreen Incubator strategy that we're working on together, right? Is that, how do we take, I've said that the term cold audience, these complete strangers, how do you warm them up so that they're in a position that they can become hot buyers? And again, the answer is, it depends on who your audience is. If you sell $15 direct to consumer products, then you can probably run direct ads to your product at that point, right? But if you need to build that know, like, and trust factor, right? If you need to have different, your audience needs to believe different things about themselves, about your product, about your brand, right? Like Jordan Belfort calls it the 3 10s, right? It's, do they, on a score of 0 to 10, you need to get them to a whatever 8, 9, or 10 that they believe in you as a salesperson. Is in a sales conversation. They believe in you as a salesperson. They believe in your company, and they believe in the product that they're going to buy. And so, in the old days, I should have put these on my desk. I was thinking about this, but in the old days, Dan Kennedy, the ultimate sales letter, you could send a letter to someone in the mail, and it would be 3 pages long, and it would break down these different types of questions, right? Everything goes back to who's your audience and what are they thinking about, and how do you address the thoughts and questions that they have. And back in the day, Dan Kennedy would teach to write these long sales letters that addressed all of those things. Someone would get home, be excited that there was mail in their mailbox, and they'd read this letter, and then they'd send in a check with a stamp and buy something, right? And then that evolved. Obviously, the internet came out, et cetera, et cetera. Jeff Walker comes out with the product launch formula, which is the sideways sales letter. And what that did was take this long sales letter, if you envision this one long sales letter, and he turned it sideways. So section 1, you reached in one message. Section 2, you addressed in video number 2. Section 3, you addressed in video number 3. Section 4, you put in video number 4. And so now you've dripped out those things, because the attention span of your audience is not going to read a 3-5 page letter, right? We've turned that sales letter sideways. In today's world, it's evolved even more, where now, instead of that one long sales letter, instead of the sideways sales letter that's got 3 sections, now we need to do this micro content that's going to, like he said here, show the human side of your business, earn that brand connection, right? Like for me, everything is, customer centric, human based approach, having conversations. Marketing should be that conversation where you're showing, yes, we are people here and we're having a conversation. This is a dialogue, not a monologue. And taking all those small snippets of, yes, these are the values we stand for. And this is the personality of our brand and the people who work here that you're going to be working with, right? Like increasing that score to a 10 of working with our brand. And then also here's what you need to know about the product or service, right? So like what we're talking about here, Lisa, great question, that like my knowledge is very deep. And like someone could call me today and say, hey, we want to run Facebook ads. Here's a check. I won't take those people because they're not educated enough to be a successful client, right? Like depending on your business and what you sell, you need to educate your clients so that you will have a successful relationship and not just have them sign up, work for a month, and then they fire you, you fire them, it doesn't work out. But knowing that you're educating your clients. And so think about what are all the questions that people ask about the product or service that you sell, and answer each of those things in a different piece of content, and then running those. And so we have, like I mentioned before, this Evergreen Incubator that we're building out, where over the course of 30 days, we're answering all those different questions people have about the brand, about your people, about the product or service, about objections they might have, questions about themselves. Is this, yeah, this sounds great, but will it work for me? So answering all those different things in micro pieces of content, whether that's a 45-second video, a 3-minute video, and then, you know, the more relationship you build with people, then the longer you can keep their attention and get them to listen, you know, watch a 15-minute YouTube video or listen to a 45-minute podcast as they become more engaged with you and want to hear more. And so it's building up the relationship. That's how I look at marketing, is building a relationship with your audience. So to tie up that the question in like, how long should that be with the brand awareness versus sales, is it's based on how much are they spending with you? How big of a change is it for them to move from their current solution to what you have to offer, whether that's they're doing nothing now to getting started versus they're working with someone else, or they have a different piece of software or a different product, and stopping that and starting yours is going to require a pain and a transition and a learning curve. So the greater those things are, you probably need a longer runway of building up the relationship with them, so that when you present an offer, they're well educated, they're excited about the future that you've shown them they can have when working with you, and they know, like, and trust you as a person, as a brand. And so then when you do have these sales conversations, or they do go to a sales page, they're pre-qualified, predetermined, pre-filtered, all that kind of stuff, and they're excited about it.
I want to rewind back to you said a term here, and I just wanted to prime the audience if they don't know, but you said evergreen. So can you explain to the audience what that is? And then when you define what that is for everyone, I want to talk about the ideal client that comes to you, that's the educated client, or at least has a primer on what to expect, because managing expectations is really critical.
Absolutely.
When you come into something like this, because it could be a heavy investment.
Yeah.
And if someone's coming in thinking that it's going to happen overnight, like by next week, I want to see results and I want to see cash in my account.
Right.
Yeah. So talk about that after you explain what Evergreen is.
Sure. So Evergreen is something that is timeless, right? So if you address, I'll give 2 examples. One example is COVID. Like, here's what you need to know about COVID. Or, you know, in the early quarantine, I had content that was running that was, you know, how to communicate during a crisis. And so that was important for a short period of time, longer than we expected at the time, but it's still, there's an end to it. Evergreen is something that is just as good in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months as it is today, right? So when the other example would be PodMax, right? We have PodMax as an event. And so that's going to come and go. Everyone, make sure you go register. Pricing goes up every Friday. So if you want the best prices, go to podmax.com right now and get that. But
.co.
That is true.
.co,
by the
sorry.
way. Prices are going up this Friday.
Yes.
And so shameless plug. And so this PodMax event is there's a time, there's an end to it. Evergreen is something that when you publish and talk about something, it's ongoing forever, right? There's no end date to it. It will still be relevant. And so a great thing about this, and like, let's even zoom out from the topic of Facebook ads, because really what I help people do is create content that helps them get found, whether that's on social or search. And going back to know your audience, what questions are they asking in their head? They're also asking those questions on Google. And so if you create content that's based on the questions people are asking you, then you put that onto your blog, publish a blog post. If you're doing video, doing podcasts, which is why like our collaboration is so great. If you're creating great content, embed that on your blog post that's optimized for the question they're asking. Well, yes, now we put that on social, we run an ad, we get immediate traffic, we reach people right away, right? We're buying data, we're buying results that come faster. But what's happening in the background as a byproduct of serving your audience with great content is in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, that content on your website starts showing up at the top of Google. And now you're generating leads with an offer and content immediately short term by paying and running ads. Now people start finding it on Google, and now you start getting dozens, hundreds, thousands of visitors finding you because they're searching Google, and you don't have to pay for that stuff. And so that's like really the juice I love to squeeze, is building out a customer journey, creating great content, amplifying it through social ads, but also optimizing it on your website so that over time there's just a massive compound growth by organic search. And then organic people find it on search, they share it on social because you're creating great content. Then there's the social word of mouth, and there's a whole flywheel around increasing and scaling your visibility. But it all starts with knowing your audience and their questions, do the micro tests. Is this going to resonate? Then let's scale it up.
Wow, that's a lot of, those are gold nuggets right there. What you just said, and I'd like to apply that to any business.
Right.
Podcasting, real estate, educating your client, educating the consumer is the biggest gift you could give them and yourself as the professional. And I think that sometimes goes unnoticed. We assume that people know.
Right.
And they don't, but by helping them know the information, you then become, and Eric, you always say, right, you become the thought leader.
Exactly.
Right? And then they look to you as the expert. And it's because you're providing them with education. And
exactly.
That there's a commercial, an educated consumer is our best customer.
Exactly.
It's true. And I think and I never really thought of it in that perspective. I think that was a gold nugget right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the way you're pointing it out, Lisa, is saying that there's a responsibility that the brand and the entrepreneur has, right, Todd, as well? It's not just, hey, I'm going to alleviate any work of what I have to do, even by paying you to help run ads. There's still a responsibility on my end, as we're noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's understanding. And that's another thing to talk to an agency or contractor about is like, are you coming in solely to run Facebook ads, or can you help us take a step back and look at the bigger vision of our business and the customer journey and our positioning and, the value ladder, et cetera, like all these other things, which is quickly what our relationship has grown into. And to give a great example of this, and this is organic, is not of the value ladder zoomed out, but of the building relationship, education, being connected for a long time. The way that we started working together was that Josh and I became Facebook friends through a Facebook group somewhere like a year plus ago.
Yeah.
We became friends. We had, a quick message. Hey, what do you do? What do you do? Et cetera. Cool. Sounds good. Like whatever. And then we were friends for a long time, over a year. And I'm sure I had seen some of Josh's posts. He had seen some of my posts, but we didn't have a direct relationship yet. And then a couple months ago, Josh posted something like, who do I know who's good at Facebook ads or whatever? I commented with a hand emoji. He sent me a message. We hit it off in Messenger. We got on the phone with Eric, and it was great from there. But that took over a year, and it was not even intentional. And that's also why I love being like you said, Eric, the thought leader, right? Like that, the content producer. This mindset, the modern marketing mindset, is about creating content that helps educate and engage your audience. Show your audience that you're a thought leader and you're an expert in your space. And even if it was subliminal over the last 12 months, but I didn't have to every day wake up and think, how can I get Josh Carey to think I'm an expert in Facebook ads? Because that's the beauty of social media, where I don't know how many other dozens or hundreds of Josh Careys that I've been connected with for less than 12 months, that in another 6 months, because I just consistently put out, valuable information, someone else is going to post at some point, who do I know that's good at Facebook ads? And I use the hand emoji, and then we hit it off and go into there, and it becomes another great partnership. And so the content creation, that's why I think if you're thinking about, should my business be creating content? Like, yes, talk to Eric and On Air Brands, because you should be broadcasting your brand, because it's the easiest way. Like, that's how I look. Those are the people I want to work with, are the passionate experts, because it's very easy for us to hop on camera, talk like, what's a hot topic in your industry today? No issue talking about that for a half hour, 45 minutes, right? Like we love doing it. We geek out on it, whether you're, if you're a carpet cleaner or a business executive, like it's something that you have a deep expertise in, you can easily get on and rattle off. Like for this episode, we didn't do any prep. I actually didn't even know the topic until Eric said it when we got on the air. And so they just said, you got to get on an episode. I said, great. We booked it and that was it. And so when you're able to talk about your business, regardless of whatever industry you're in, when you can talk passionately about it and you know that you have the expertise to do so confidently, having a podcast, and I recommend video podcast, but like having a way that you're consistently creating content that is as easy as like flip on your webcam, broadcast it out, and just talk about something that gets you excited. That's the easiest way to do it. And then, step back and let's make a little strategy. Let's look up what's getting the most search volume around these topics so that you can frame your episodes around what people are searching. Let's do some research and see what content's getting shared the most on social. So let's frame some episodes around, let's frame the topics around that. And then I call these content clusters. So we have our SEO clusters, which are based on that. We have our social media word of mouth, which is based on social shares. Then let's look at our thought leadership cluster. These are the kind of topics you should talk about for your business. Then let's look at our customer journey cluster. And that's the, getting them to know, like, and trust you initially, getting them, put confidence in themselves and your product, getting them educated at a base level. So there's a few different content clusters. And if you say On Air Brands, let's do this 12 months, every week, we're going to do a quick episode. Boom, you build out that roadmap in a year. You're going to dominate your industry just by showing up once a week, flipping on your camera and talking about something you were already talking to someone over coffee about anyway.
Love it.
Sorry, that was a little tangent. I don't even know where I started that.
Yeah,
but like,
Devin, share your thoughts, and then I have like 100 questions.
Same. I feel like my head's kind of like
fire hose.
Like I'm trying to compress. Yeah. So for for me and for my business, we actually are very active on Instagram and Facebook. We don't have somebody that manages it for us, but we are very active on it, and we've actually got a lot of contacts through it. So I know that there's ways to expand it. But for right now, it's like very interesting because what you were just saying, like I was thinking, like my head was like spinning. But I was, I knew someone in high school, obviously, but we weren't friendly, but not best friends or anything. And so recently got engaged, and he found a house and reached out to me and was like, hey, like on social media, and was like, hey, I've been watching like what you've been doing over the past couple of years. We're putting an offer on this house. Like, can you kind of like give me ideas on different designs? Can you help me with like construction? Can you help me with all this stuff? And he was like, I've been watching you for a while, and like
exactly.
putting out there. And like, honestly, like, and I said it, and I full-heartedly meant it. I'm like, we're so honored that you've been watching us for this long. I didn't even know that you knew like what I was doing with my life.
Right. Yeah.
But so to think like, it's been so many years now, we've been putting content out there. My fiance is really good at like going like Facebook Lives and showing like even like small little snippets here and there. And I'll always post like Instagram stories, and we're constantly on it, just showing what we're doing. And then also trying to, relate back to what we like, who we are as individuals too, to kind of show up like well-versed. Like we're not all 100% real estate. We work out, we do like other, other things.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like, I guess, so what your point is it's cool that how something shows over so much time that it just like expands into something. So it is amazing what social media can do. And especially when you're constantly and consistently putting in for like content out.
Yeah. And I think, the personality side too, like let's touch on that, because that's super important. Like and maybe this isn't for every business, but we're, I know we're very much like in the entrepreneurial world. Like we all like working with other entrepreneurs and business owners. And so when it comes to that, like showing your personality makes a difference. Like you're putting out the working out and the whatever other stuff. So they know your personality. That happened to be someone you knew from high school, so they knew you a little bit from there. But like Josh and I, we don't have enough time to go through how much synchronicities we have, like as immediate as right before we got on the show, where you holding the same book on our desk is insane. But because there's no qualms about it, that over those last 12 months where I've probably posted like, hey, I'm reading this book, like and here's something I got out of it, or this podcast episode, or this topic, or whatever. And like, so our personalities are very much in sync on those types of topics. And so if we very much could have gotten on the phone and like, I start talking about something that's maybe a little too woo woo for some people, like that's a disconnect. They're not a qualified person, but we don't recognize that right away. We start working together, and I'm like, much more mindset, universe, etc. And like, if they don't even know, they never heard of the law of attraction before type of thing, like you're operating in two separate worlds. But by putting your personality out and showing the stuff that you do, and you're thinking on things, it attracts the right people, so that you guys, it's not a coincidence that once we started working together, like we hit the ground running so quickly.
And that's really how we've met so many people, honestly, through social media. Is also, it's all about like, my fiance's a football coach, like we can bond on different things, and like real estate brings us together, but there's so many different things that like we do as individuals that we put out there to show people like who we are on a day-to-day. This isn't.
And another thing that I love about doing this and showing the human side is that you can then use that language and tie it together. And so for me, a lot of times, like I'm a diehard Giants fan. My family's had season tickets since the early 50s. And so like we're big on sports, right? And so to talk about things and know that, okay, I'm going to attract people who are into sports, I can say things like, you really need to know, actually this just happened this morning. We were talking about like, okay, what direction should the business go in? And we need to know where our strengths and weaknesses are. And so the analogy I used with my client was, look, we're really good at small ball. We need to play small ball. We shouldn't try to go down low in the post and play like Shaq, right? And so great. And that analogy is not, even people watching now probably won't resonate with a lot of people, right? But when you attract people who are in your world, you can speak that type of language and use analogies that work. And so when you put out content and use analogies, like if you're really into fitness and real estate, I am not into either of those things. So my analogy right now is going to be terrible, but you can tell some kind of story about like, oh, we were just we just went for a hike, and, it started off, we thought it was going to be easy, but of course, as we got halfway through, it was way steeper than we expected, and the path was a little rough, so we had to take a different path we weren't expecting. And when you invest in a new house, that same exact thing happens. You buy the house with these grand dreams, and you think everything's going to be perfect, and you start on the path, and then the path isn't as clear as you thought, and you need to clear out some brush. That's the same thing that happens with your house. And so that's what we help our clients get through is, yes, awesome, you bought your new house and it's amazing. But just like when you're hiking in the woods and you hit a trail that you need to forge your own path and make your own decisions, that's where we help you in the home buying process. You've moved into your house. Now let's make it your own. Let's make it your own trail.
The cool thing about that, Todd, is that it doesn't, for anyone who's listening and watching and thinking, I need to do more content, I just don't know how to approach it, I don't know how to do it. That right there is an exact way, not exact with that analogy, but it peppered in with your experiences and your value and what it is you're an expert in. And if you start to do more and more of it, it'll start to become more natural to you. You'll get better and better and better at it. Yeah. Getting to the point now where I have to constantly take notes when going throughout my day. I'm like, oh my God, that's an analogy. That's a metaphor. That's one that I can connect the dots. So it's just going to start pouring out, but you have to keep doing it. So there's three things I wanted to highlight before we wrap up this show. Two are
too soon.
Two are highlights. The third thing is a question. And then I know Todd could probably take it home. And then if you have any other questions, hopefully you put in the comments or add here, Josh, Lisa, or Devin. But so number one, you mentioned creating content based on the questions that people ask you. That is so powerful right there. So people, if you have conversations with friends, with family, with potential clients, they're asking you questions and you're answering them, wholeheartedly. Yes, here, I want to help you, but start to take mental logs of what those questions are so that you can start to frame content and build content around your answers, because that's offline. People aren't seeing you as a thought leader to that person. So someone the other day was asking me all about podcasts. What do I do about this? Thank you, Todd. I'm going to start creating more content around those questions she was asking me. Number two is this is really next level. If you have a podcast, you've got 20, 30, 40 or more episodes, and you stepped into it as one like I did, I'm just going to create a podcast, personal brand, ask, questions, tell stories, and form relationships. It's getting to the point now where I have to take it to the next level. And Todd and I have been talking about, we've been figuring out what are ways where you can start creating content for your podcast that are around value and eventually sales. So then you start to break it down with intention and now knowledge of all the stuff that you know and learned, and your guests coming in especially, you can start chopping up and creating the content but still have the flow of a story in podcasting. So that's next level, absolutely next level, that I think everyone should probably get to at some point. So,
and let's talk first level, because what you said there is huge. What are people asking you? And here is the best hack I can give you. Next time a client or a prospect emails you a question and you hit reply to them with the answer, and then copy that email and post it on Facebook and say, just got this question, quote, paste, here's what I told them. Boom. You literally didn't do any work. So what we're doing is we're creating assets out of what used to be a 1-to-1 input output. We're taking 1 to 1 million, right? So every time someone calls you up, asks you a question, record that, put it out on scale, put it on your blog. I'm going to tease this, but how I really took off in the industry after Hurricane Sandy, a lot of downtime. I wrote and promoted 2 blog posts every day for 5 weeks straight, 50 blog posts in 25 days. And every one of those was a question someone had already asked me. And then my Google ranking shot to the top, got covered by Forbes, Entrepreneur, picked up in all these different places as a thought leader, because all I did was answer questions. Instead of hitting reply on the email, was I put it on my blog and then shared that out onto social. So easiest way, when someone asks you a question, answer it. That's all you got to do.
Emoji that the head blows up. That was
this is the one. I love that mind blow, because you're exactly right. And Jason Pfeiffer said this to us too. He writes blogs and posts them on LinkedIn, his website, or wherever it is. So when people ask the question, all you have to simply do is send a link. Go, hey, you just asked me this question. Here's a link to my article, and read it. It answers all the questions. And then you just keep doing that over and over and over without you having to write a brand new email every single time. Brilliant, dude. Absolutely brilliant. One thing I wanted to add or ask you, because I'm sure people who engage in this activity, and I want your feedback on this. So Facebook has made it easy for the every man and woman to boost
my
ads.
stomach's starting to turn already.
Boost ads on Facebook, right? So can you talk a little bit about that design, how and why they pushed it out, and why shouldn't people do that?
Yeah. So the boost ad button is the fastest way to give Mr. Zuckerberg some pocket change, right? Now,
he needs a sandwich.
And there are caveats to this, but I will say in most cases, either do not do that, because it does have more options than it used to. But in general, the boost post button is a generic, like, blast this out, give me $5, I'll show it to whoever Facebook thinks it should show to, and like there's no intention or objective behind that. And so what's the next step? And in a Facebook ads campaign manager, for like the true ads manager, you can set objectives and audiences more granularly and budgets. The other thing is, if it works, a boosted post will end. A campaign you can run in perpetuity, and you can increase the budget and scale up. So there's technical reasons that you'd want to do the other thing. But at the same time, I think the boost post button will most likely leave a bad taste in your mouth, because what happens is you boost a post for $5 and you're like, great, I'm a Facebook advertiser now. And so you spend $5, you don't get any customers, and you think, well, Facebook ads don't work. Now you have just ruined the future of your business by writing off one of the most powerful ways to grow in today's world, because you didn't do it properly. You didn't do it enough. They made it easy for you to click a button and donate a couple bucks, but it didn't give you what you needed. So have the expectation, like if you have a very small local business and you want to hit the boost post button because it makes you feel better and it will reach some more people, fine. But know that if you hit the boost post button on something you randomly you open Facebook, posted something you wanted to get out today and hit boost post, that is not the same thing as running Facebook ads. So don't let that deter you from the true growth potential that there is. It's the same thing, I think I'm stealing this from Gary Vaynerchuk, but it's, what's the ROI of a basketball? It's like, well, for me, the ROI of a basketball is a sprained ankle after 45 minutes. But the ROI of a basketball for LeBron James is literally billions of dollars. And so don't compare your sprained ankle to the basketball not working, right? It's just you're just not LeBron James. You shouldn't have been doing that. And so just know that when you hit the boost post button, you're buying a lottery ticket. You're just kind of, amplifying a little bit, but especially the problem is the button's right there. So it's like, I just posted something random and now I'm going to put money behind it. So even the post itself wasn't part of a growth strategy, right? So even if the boost post button did work in what it's supposed to do, what you're boosting is most likely not very strategic to hit your goals. So if it makes you feel good to spend $5 and you have it to spend, like, fine, do it. But that's not the same thing as Facebook advertising or thinking about how to grow your business through Facebook.
I want to share a story, if you guys don't mind, that blew my freaking mind when it happened and why. It was Kaiser Soze, Usual Suspects, or The Sixth Sense, whichever.
Yeah.
These are old references, but
Yeah.
it was like, I can't believe this just happened to me. So I'm sitting at a networking event that I paid top dollar to be in. It wasn't the first event. It was number of events. I'm talking maybe half a dozen events that I went deep into the funnel. And as I'm sitting there, one of the mentors, coaches, starts to explain to us how we got there. She says, basically, you got here through a Facebook ad. I didn't even realize this. So she said, we take the amount that the one person attending this event, let's say it's $2,000, okay? She goes, take the cost for one person and start to use that as the starting point for your ad spend. So say $2,000 for ad spend. Then you start to do all the magic that Todd does. You hire people that can now capitalize and really make that an efficient spend of your souped dollars to nuts. And then you...
Oh, it's a tie game. It's a tie score, ladies and gentlemen.
I got my eye on the clock here.
And it hit me.
I know.
It hit me. Holy crap. I always thought this was design of the universe. I discovered Robert Kiyosaki's book. I became a real estate investor. And then I saw Robert Kiyosaki was going to be in town in Edison, New Jersey. I went to a free event, right? Sat there for a free event, which bought me a $500 ticket to a 3-day course, which bought me another upsell to another $2,000 course, to a $20,000 course. All of a sudden, I'm tens of thousands of dollars in. And now she's telling me we spent $2,000 on you, Eric.
Yeah.
Holy crap. And I always said, oh, you know what, the Robert Kiyosaki book, it just showed up and I started to read it. No. They saw me researching real estate investing. Exactly. And all of a sudden I started to see it subconsciously everywhere. Yeah. Kiyosaki's book. I read it and then boom, I was in the funnel to, hey, Kiyosaki's in town. No, he wasn't. Yeah. People actually brought the book like he was going to be there to sign it. I was like, no way. But anyway, look what happened. That funnel, that's the magic of Facebook ads.
And it is. And even before Facebook ads, I would say this too, because when you consistently put out content, what you're doing is forcing serendipity. The people who are looking for ways to leave the rat race will find Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And once you find Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you start looking for ways to invest in passive income. And then you find real estate investment. And once you find, and so you're forcing serendipity by putting yourself out. And if you don't create content, then you're not even in the game. People can't find you if you're not putting yourself out there and forcing that serendipity. Facebook ads have come along and Google retargeting as well, where now we can control that even more. So once someone enters into our world, like, we can take them through that journey. And right there, folks, that's the dollars to nuts.
All right, you win.
Okay.
Todd, this is why I'm so proud to know you, so proud to be working with you, so proud to have you on our team. No, not because of the dollars to nuts, which isn't a point for me. But seriously, proud to know you, proud to have you on our team, and so thankful you spent the last 6 months saying, how can I get Josh impressed with my language so he will hire me as a Facebook coach and consultant.
So take us home, folks. What's happening on Friday? Even though we have an event October 16th, there's still activity happening each and every week. What's going on there, Josh?
This Friday? You mean our Master the Mic?
Well, no, the Master of the Mic, of course, which is part of the program that people from the last PodMax, but tickets are going up. So Todd, through the wonderful magic of Todd and his brilliant mind, we have ticket sales that are $497. Correct? And
3 levels. The entry level is $497.
Right now, you can gain entry to PodMax on October 16th and then get to do all the wonderful things like get you on shows, participate in engaging activities to elevate your brand and your business, but then also hear from our amazing keynote, Hal Elrod, talking about the Miracle Morning and all the crazy cool things that he's done and also his life and how he got to where he is.
He's amazing.
So it's, he's changed all of our lives. So hopefully you can make it there. Hopefully October 6th is already blocked on your calendar.
16th.
But if you buy your October 16th, but then if you are coming and you haven't decided yet, we highly recommend you jump in now because it's
I have
going
to
up.
say, if today's episode, if you resonated today with the idea of like, I need to be putting content out there and educating my audience, I don't know how to get started. Literally, PodMax is the best, fastest, easiest way to do that because you don't have to create any content on your own. There's no heavy lifting. You show up. Josh and Eric will be great coaches for you to help like really articulate your story and craft like what should you be saying. You learn all that before you get started. And then in the one day at PodMax, you get to be a guest on 3 shows, which you get to tell your story and talk about all the things your customers want to hear. And then you end up with 3 hours or 45 minutes each or whatever it is. But you end up with a ton of great content, exactly what we talked about today. So you're answering the questions people are thinking about. You're telling your story so people will resonate with you and know, like, and trust you. You're showing the human side so that there's analogies in there for people to connect with and understand what you do. You're educating your customers through those conversations with a podcast host who's interviewing you. And in that one day, PodMax has become your jump starter to exactly what we talked about today. Call it serendipity because we didn't plan for the topic, but that's what it is. So if this episode today resonated with you, PodMax is the fastest way to get started in becoming a thought leader and creating content that's going to attract great clients and customers to you.
Love it.
Wow.
Look at this guy.
That was excellent.
I think we leave it there.
Yeah. CEO of PodMax. What's going on here, man? Jeez Louise.
Well,
Talk about
CMO,
brand
certainly.
ambassador. Okay, CMO. Yes, that's what
Certainly.
I meant. John's like, But yeah, so any last words, Devin, Lisa, Josh, before we part?
I think we leave him with Todd. He
think, yeah.
he
He
said
dropped
it.
it. He dropped the mic.
Yeah.
He dropped the mic. Okay, thank you. So October 16th, don't forget, mark it in your calendars. We have other events that we are planning in the back end. But October 16th is the shining, grail for us because we can't wait to talk to Hal Elrod and bring that to you. So make sure that you jump into podmax.co now, and hopefully we'll see you there. Until next
Best
week.
price is today. Don't miss it.
Yeah. Next week, folks. Same time, same channel.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.